Thanks for being here today. My name is Ashutosh Datt, and on this occasion, I want to talk to you about building permanent, decentralized apps with Arweave. So I was just hearing the panel talk about, and there was a lot of conversations about building apps and building information resources on decentralized tech. And I think that's a good follow-up with how Arweave's come into place and how it can help you solve that. So yeah, let me get started. So yeah, the title for today to get you started with Arweave is building permanent apps with Arweave. So fortunately, doing so it's really simple, and it's typically Arweave fashion. We like to go fast and cover a lot of ground in a small amount of time. So what we'll cover today will be the basics of Arweave. We'll then show you a range of possibilities that you have to, you can do to build using Arweave, and we'll talk about how to get started as a developer ASAP. So, what is Arweave? In a nutshell, Arweave is a permanent information storage layer with emphasis on permanent. It is basically like a decentralized, okay, that messed up the presentation. It was supposed to be there. But it's basically a decentralized storage, but instead of focusing on temporary storage that you might be able to buy from, let's say, the biggest markets player right now, Google, S3, Azure, or others. With Arweave, you have the guarantee that the information will be stored in a way that you stored it for 200 years and with a single upfront fee. So, as we said, you pay once to store forever. So, what makes it different? What makes Arweave as a solution different than a lot of out there? So, number one, to get started, the onboarding is really intuitive, because very high level Arweave works with other L1s and the other programming language, so you don't really necessarily have to get your hands dirty or start a new language just to start building basic stuff. So regardless of the ecosystem you are in, or whichever L1 or L2 you're using, you can start using Arweave right away. So fun fact, many NFT projects on Ethereum and on Solana are storing their NFTs on Arweave. And we had Instagram was working on its NFTs. I think until last year it's not active anymore. But yeah, Meta and Instagram were storing their NFTs on Arweave. So yeah, that's pretty cool. The other thing is the mainnet has been live since 2018. So it's been almost 5 years now. The protocol is stable, it's usable, and yeah, so you don't have to really wait for a mainnet to get started. You can get started right away. And then we already have people using it, utilizing its use case. So I think last month, we completed 1 billion transactions on the Arweave network, which means 1 billion, let's say, files, folders, or anything dApp stored on the network. So I think the first question, if you're starting with it, would be, how does it work? Number one, like any other network, you pay a fee using the token, and once you use that token to store information, a part of every fee goes on an endowment. It's like a safe keep, which pays the network participants to store the data. The second is, which is interesting, is that storage prices has been decreasing at a rate of, let's say, 30% in the past 30 or 40 years, which means that the fee you paid initially now has increased storage purchasing power, and this interest that you pay for your data will increase. So currently it pays for over 200 years of storage, and that will increase as the endowment grows. So I think the next possible question is, what can you do with it, and how can you get started? And I think the answer is simple: a lot of things. So as basic as storing any type of file. So you can start with the photos of your dog, a PDF, JPEG, MP3, or any type of file that you want to get started with. Then you can store your UI and make sure whenever people look up your website or dApp, you never met with a 404 error, because it's permanent. And yeah, what the ethos that we believe in, that you can go all in and have your entire backend and front end on Arweave, making sure that the app is forever available. So what can you build with Arweave? We mentioned about what type of things you can build on Arweave, what things you can build on Arweave. dApps that never break. Well, you build the dApps that never break because the way they are stored, they are kept forever. dApps that need no maintenance, because they don't break, they essentially require no maintenance. And that's the cool thing, is that on Arweave, you pay for the writing the data. As we said, pay one store forever. So you essentially are not paying for reading the data. And you can read it as many as times you can without paying a fee. Which I think comes to a very interesting point, is that increased uses doesn't mean that you will have increased costs. This is very important because it flips the traditional model on its head. Because normally as your application grows in popularity, you're faced with increased server costs. So let's say if you have 10 users right now, your server cost will be very low. But if you have like 1 million users in the coming next year or two, it will be drastically burn your pocket. So then you have three options that what you can do, right? If you're using the traditional storage mechanisms, is you pay out of your own pocket. Obviously not cool. I've seen those AWS bills in lakhs. And the developers are just end up paying them. The second thing you can do is monetize super early, which is also not cool, especially in Web3, where you want to build your community first and then go into that realm. Or third thing, the very traditional route is raising fund through a VC, which is good, but it's time consuming and not very easy. And as a dev, that's not the only thing you should be focusing on. So, on top of it, what critically important these days is that you can build apps on Arweave that are censorship resistant. Information stored on Arweave cannot be altered or deleted. So let's say if you have an authoritarian regime, or let's say Elon Musk, who doesn't like what you're storing on any of the platforms, or let's say Twitter or X, and they can delete your information, they can put it down, they can decrease the reach, whatever they have in their hand. But with Arweave, your dApps or anything you store are censorship resistant. You don't take my word for it. Here are some examples that we have for you to show Arweave at work on the levels of censorship resistant. So starting with China in 2022, activists created a system to identify censored topics related to COVID-19. They were not putting out right information on Sina Weibo. So Weibo is like Google for China. It's a different thing that works there. And so these posts, interestingly, these posts were being taken down, and the local activists there start storing them on Arweave. And the entire posts that were out during that time, they were completely taken down, but you can still access, because of the post of these Chinese activists, you can still access them on the Arweave network, still today. Number two is Hong Kong in 2021. I think shortly after the national security law that passed in Hong Kong, activists archived thousands of articles from pro-democracy outlets. And soon after these records were archived, the original copies were lost from the centralized web. They were taken down by the government. And as soon as Ukraine, like around 75 million records from social media and other sources capturing the development of the war have been stored in Arweave thus far. So it's pretty big number, and ranges from articles to videos to interviews. And these videos and these images do contain likely evidence of war crimes and other activities by the Russian government in Ukraine. So they are stored on Arweave and they can be retrieved anytime. So now the question is, how do you get started? If this piqued your interest, how you can start building dApps on Arweave, you want to know how to get started right away, right? So especially for devs, we have this pretty cool resource. We call this the PermaWeb Cookbook. So PermaWeb is like an interesting term we use within the community. It's called the permanent web, hence the PermaWeb. And this is a developer resource that provides all essential concepts and references for building applications on Arweave. Go check it out. It's pretty cool, very intuitive, easy to follow, and I think you'll have a good time exploring it. Next way how you can get started is through grants. Grants are usually provided with projects that have high social value, so that are usually non-profit in nature. An excellent example, I think recent example, was the grant recipient is the Rohingyas project. So there was a project that was helping the persecuted Rohingyas community store their personal information, which were constantly at risk because the Myanmar government and the population were not recognizing them as citizens of the country. So this was like one of the grants that we did. Other than that, if you're a developer looking to build something, something interesting, something else that is not grant-related, we do have the founders program with us. So we routinely invest in projects that are building using Arweave. We invest early via entrepreneur residence at Forward Research. That's where I work, and along with other incubation, incubators and accelerators in the ecosystem. And yeah, there are quite a few of them. So it's good to pitch your ideas, and they'll be more than happy to provide you support in any form, in mentorship or possible funding. So yeah, this is a cool picture or map of some of the projects we have invested over the last few years. I think in total we have invested in over 90 projects in the last 20 months or so. So those are proper VC numbers, and proper VCs have actually noticed the growing ecosystem as well. So you can see here's an extract of some of the, I think, most active investors in the Arweave ecosystem, which includes the biggies like A16Z and Coinbase Ventures, who have invested in Arweave, as well as the alumnus, the projects that I showed in the previous slide. So yeah, it's super easy to build on Arweave. The ecosystem is growing, and we will help you build and possibly raise capital. So can I suggest you that you quit your job and join us in building the new web? So yes, that's about it. If you want to follow the ecosystem, know how you can get started. So for events and developments, we got this website up. You can check it out, called Arweave Hub. It's pretty easy to begin with. For announcements, hackathons, do follow these Twitter accounts. It's Arweave ecosystem and only Arweave. And if you want to talk to us, we have a booth right down in the corridor, and we would be more than happy to answer your questions as you may. So yeah, thank you very much. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh, for the lovely presentation on Arweave and its critical application in censorship resistance.